You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN. And now back to a TSPN outreach presentation. The Amador Water Agency's Director's Midterm Update on TSPN.
And we're talking this morning about the Amador Water Agency. We're getting an update from directors on the board of the water agency. And joining us now is Rich Farrington. Rich is the District 3 director.
Upcountry.
Right? Upcountry. Along with Paull Molinni Sr., who's the current board president of the Amador Water Agency. We're giving folks an update on sort of the state of the water agency right now, and a little bit of background about how the agency works, and particularly about the water systems. But before we get into that, Rich, as by way of introduction, you were appointed to the board in 2010, early, was that right?
Actually, it was last year in April.
Oh, okay. And then you ran for election in November and were reelected.
Right. My predecessor resigned because of health reasons, and so I ran and was elected in November. I'm a fiscal conservative. I've owned property in the county for over 21 years, and I'm a retired engineer.
And you were the mayor of Ferndale for a while, were you not?
Yeah. Well,
I think that's my favorite
way back.
thing in your bio, because I love Ferndale.
And I want to add that Rich was elected by over 70% of the vote, which is very impressive.
Yeah, that was very impressive. So we've been talking a little bit about how the water agency water systems are configured. What kind of condition are they in right now, would you say?
Go ahead.
It's very variable. I mean, we've got pipes up to 100 years old and some that are new, and it's a variety of problems.
So pipes don't last forever?
Absolutely not.
They don't.
Well, and pipes isn't your own. You have pipes and you have pumps and you have other kinds of facilities
water
like water
tanks, sewage treatment facilities.
Spread out all over several hundred square miles of territory.
Right, and we recently had a break in Ione. We don't know why it broke. A main delivery line. The crews did a great job getting out there, I think at midnight, and getting water delivered as fast as possible, but there's no accounting for why pipes break.
We have a...
Can I
go ahead,
also
please.
point out also last fall, upcountry, we had a major pump breakdown, and it was down for, I think, almost 2 weeks. And so the crews ran upcountry, which is a different system. And then, we had this break in Ione, and we've had problems in Camanche. So the crews are just kind of racing around, trying to keep up with the maintenance. And you can't predict when that's going to happen.
They're not on a schedule, a breakage schedule for you?
Schedule, no.
Yeah.
But,
yes, they are. Their own schedule.
But that makes it hard to budget. How do you know at the beginning of the fiscal year whether you're going to have a break here or there or over there?
So in addition to the challenges of just delivering water, then you also have to fix things that break and replace things that wear out. And
it's a delicate. This is a conservative group of directors. I always want to point out, but it's a delicate balance between holding costs down and then spending whatever has to be spent for maintenance, but also to deliver water in the future, to do the things that are necessary so the system is still there for future users, just as the people who preceded us did.
We have a photo of some of the guys working on the Ione break. I think that's an interesting example of how, with your reduced staff, the story of that was that the break happened on a Saturday evening, maybe around dinner time.
I got a call.
And the water was, because of the break in the pipe, the water was running from the tank that serves Mule Creek Prison, running backwards through the pipe and flooding into a field, which meant that it would soon drain the city pipelines of water.
And it did drain their water tank.
Right. But you don't have a crew of guys who work on Saturday night. Right?
No, they all came in. They were all called in and just hit it hard and stay there till they finished.
They stayed there till, I think, Sunday afternoon when it was finally repaired.
So one group of guys worked all night long digging by hand somewhat, and then another group came in the morning to relieve them. And
just let me interject. This is a good time to really give some praise to the employees of the water agency. They've not only made the cuts we've asked them to make in concessions, but they've really stepped up with a limited crew to keep things going. They've done a great job.
Yeah, yes, they have.
So the water agency rates, we touched on that just a little bit. Are they, we've talked about the challenges of recession, but is there some sort of built-in, keeping up with the cost of living kind of something built into the rates? Have the rates kept up with the cost of gas and chemicals?
No. Upcountry, the last increase was in 2006, so it's been at least 6 or 7 years that we've had, and you've got costs going up. In particular, the biggest concern I have upcountry is our PG&E bill to pump water out of the river up to the Buckhorn treatment plant. In January, PG&E got a 4.5% increase. Looking back 20 years, I've gone over the records. They've averaged 4.5% a year increase, and to not have any kind of an inflation adjustment for
the agency has to pay more for electricity, but that's not being reflected in how much people pay for their water at this point.
The last adjustment in rates anywhere was 2010. So it hasn't kept up.
We mentioned Lake Camanche earlier is on a well system. What are and they have a history of, that area has a history of water problems. What are the water problems in Camanche?
Well, I want to be careful because I'm not a scientist, and so some of the problems are technical. Some of the
have to do with geology where the water comes from,
and corrosion and things like that. But just in general, we've had problems delivering drinking water.
Clean enough water.
We're going through right now replacing all the tanks with liners, which is going to change that. They were all redwood tanks that were leaking.
We have a picture of one of those getting a new liner. It's a cool looking structure, but you can see it's an old redwood tank made out of redwood shingles.
And it was at a point where the crews were actually putting wooden plugs into it to keep the leak.
Like corks.
Just like a cork. But now, as you can see from the photo that's on the screen, that they're putting new plastic liners in, and that should make it...
well, anybody that's had a water well knows that they're a problem, and the pumps break down, there's chemicals in the water, and those kinds of problems. Or sometimes they go dry, like we did upcountry in 76, 77. So we've had some of those problems where you've sucked bacteria, and then you've got a contamination problem. We've had some of those types of things.
Particularly in Camanche, too, there's been a project recently to replace the service lines, and that stems back to developer in the 70s placing what was then the new cool thing, which was plastic service line pipes, but that early plastic pipe has created problems in not just Camanche, but many other places.
I don't know who did it, and I hope I don't know them, because I think it was done shoddily when it was done.
Well, and that's something you have to deal with. Sometimes you inherit a district or a water or a subdivision, but it may not have been really the best system, maybe not up to standard.
It wasn't. When the county asked the water agency to take it, the agency did, but they inherited all of the problems.
And how are you paying for the problems? You've talked about fixing the well and replacing the service lines, the tank liners. How is that getting paid for in Camanche?
It's mostly grant money that's coming in. From whatever governmental agency is, whether it's the state or the federal governments.
We've received, $552,000 grant to help keep the rates of the customers going up, and so a lot of the repairs are being done on these leaking lines, and we're hoping to get an initial grant money to continue that.
It seems to me the grants are becoming more available these days. I don't know if that's a break in our system, an improvement, But I gather, we have a lot of things coming.
Applications in the pipeline?
We do.
And those are to replace, just to make sure that people have safe drinking water? Is it part of that?
Yes, I think
all
that's
it is.
right.
And that's obviously important. We don't really have an option about providing water to people. When they go turn on the tap, water needs to come out. Right?
Well, there's different sources of grants. I think there's a Safe Drinking Water Fund. I think these 552,000 came from Prop 84, which is a proposition voters in California approved. Different sources. We're looking at some federal. There's a lot of different grant opportunities that we're going.
That's a pretty big staff effort to keep applying for that.
Well, yeah, but it's. It helps to keep the water bills down.
Well, we are talking today about the state of the Amador Water Agency with Directors Rich Farrington and Paull Molinni Sr. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the upcountry system and the gravity supply line. And we'll be right back in just a few minutes.